Hey everybody, welcome back to Muscle Car Campy. We're here with a beautiful 1970 GTO Cardinal Red 455 4-speed car. We're gonna have some fun today. The car you see here is a 70 GTO owned by Kevin Engel, 455 HO with the ram air. It came with a 4-speed from the factory. It now has a Tremec 5-speed in it. It's not an original Judge. The stripes were added by a previous owner before, but he liked them, so he left them on. We think it looks great with them. It's a fantastic looking car, Cardinal Red. The coolest part of the 70 Intermediates was they got a lot more muscular looking. GTO, the Chevelle, the Grand Sport from Buick. Hollywood must have taken notice, because in doing some research, we found out that the 70 GTO starred in 5 different movies over the years. The most well-known, of course, is Two-Lane Blacktop, where the character was actually called GTO. Then later on, you had Paul Newman in Slapshot, and of course, Dazed and Confused. This is just a great car. It drives beautifully, and you know, 70, they really reached their peak of appeal, even if they didn't sell as well as they had in years past. Alright, we're riding now with the owner, Kevin Engel, throwing the gears in his Tremec 5-speed disguised as a 4-speed. Got the her shift knob on there, the T-handle shifter. Always looks great in these cars. One thing about these GTOs, even back in 64, 65, they always had the nicest interiors. This thing, the seats are super comfortable. The gauge cluster is right on. The speedometer's right in front of the driver. You could get an in-dash tach back then. This car has the optional hood-mounted tachometer, which really does look good. I mean, there's a lot of reflections on it. Some people back in the day complained about the idea of a hood-mounted tach. But Kevin, does it bother you at all, or do you like it?
I like it. It's right in my line of sight. It's real easy to see, especially when you're going through the gears fast. You can really keep an eye on things.
What do you like the most about this car?
It's a rolling piece of art. To me, you know, you don't see them on the road. I've had a 69 GTO 15, it was longer than that, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's been a while. Wanted one for a while. Life got in the way with kids and house and family, and was able about 5 years ago to get back into one, and always wanted a 70. I love the looks of it.
The 70 was the first year of the restyle after 68, 69, and the same basic shape of 70 to 72 on these cars, but really 70 was the one that had the best, to my opinion, the best look of all 3 years. It was super clean. Being a hideaway headlight guy, I kind of miss the hideaway headlights on the 70 that you could get as an option in 68, 69. But the front end was so well integrated, it's very sleek looking. The rest of the car, the fenders, everything was so muscular. It truly did put the muscle in muscle car. Now this car is not a factory air car, correct?
It's not a factory air car.
But that's alright. It does, like a lot of GM cars, has the vents in the dash, keep you a little cool. Now this car is a factory ram air car as well?
No, it's not a factory air. Most of the 455 HOs did not come with ram air. It's been added to this car, just like the Judge. The whole Judge package has been added to this car. Actually, the Judge stripes were added before I bought it. I like it. You know, there's a lot of haters out there to say it's not a true one. I'm okay with that. I don't claim it to be true. So,
well, and again, it's just, as you said, a rolling piece of art at this point. I mean, yeah, you could turn it back, pull the stripes off, whatever, but hey, it's your car. Enjoy it the way it is. It is the way it was when you bought it. It's what you originally fell in love with. It'd be like if your wife changed from a blonde to a redhead or something, you know? Well, actually, that wouldn't be quite the same, but how long have you had the car?
about 5 years. When I bought it, got the engine out of the car, detailed the engine, put all new brakes, fuel lines, brake lines, replaced all the suspension bushings, put new coil springs in the car. Mechanically, this car has been gone through from nose to tail, and it's all been redone. So the paint's still original. It's been repainted once in its life, and it still has that paint job on it. It's got a lot of imperfections, but it makes a nice driver. You don't worry about it too much. So,
well, I know when I had my car restored, the first show I took it to, someone put a big gouge in the fender with a belt buckle. That was my last excuse to just get in it and drive it, because after that you're just going to get stone chips and rock chips, etc. But nothing really compares to riding in one of these cars. And as I said earlier, the GTO was really special among all the mid-60s, early 70s muscle cars, because it rode nice, it had great appointments, but it definitely got up and went when you hit the throttle.
You could also get in 70 the VOE option, which is vacuum operated exhaust. There's only about, I think, 200 some cars that left the factory with it. There was a pull knob underneath the dash next to the Ram air pull knob, and it was basically factory exhaust cutouts. You pulled it, it's open exhaust. Pontiac, I thought, was pretty ingenious to do that, but their fate was sealed. They had they aired a Super Bowl ad commercial with it, and the GM executive seen it and immediately killed it.
Well, yeah, they kind of gave them all a heart attack there, but that was what Pontiac did back in the day. They gave the general heart attacks. You know, just putting the 389 in the Tempest and Le Mans in 1964 and calling it the GTO, boy, that really stood some people on its ear, because technically they weren't allowed to do that. And they all thought, who'd buy such a thing, right? They thought they'd sell maybe 5,000, and well, they sold over 30,000 the first year, over 50,000 in 65, and really became like the all-time best-selling muscle car. I think it was 66. They sold 90-something thousand of them.
And Pontiac, I believe, in 66 became number 3 in automaker sales.
Yeah, they passed Buick.
Yeah, they were behind just Chevy and Ford. I believe they were ahead of Plymouth, Dodge.
Yeah, their own fate. The GTO made the midsize the performance car to have, and the 2+2 is nothing more than a novelty, really, for GM. But I think they really needed the 455 in 1970. You know, you had all the competition now coming out with bigger engines. You know, 428 and 429 Cobra Jets, and the Fords and Mercuries, 440s, 426s, and the Mopars. 400, even though the Ram Air 400 was a great engine, it just, from a marketing standpoint, didn't kind of pass muster.
And John DeLorean, you know, left Pontiac in, I believe it was 69, and became the general manager of Chevrolet. And he kind of, the spark kind of left with John. And so when 70, when General Motors lifted the 400 cubic inch van, Pontiac was kind of left, you know, empty-handed. They had their 455 from their big cars. They redid a head and made it a high compression head for this car, and it's the same motor in the Grand Prix, but it's a D-port head. It's not their oval port head. Their Ram Air 4 was their signature motor. That it was a screamer, but it was, you know, only 400 cubic inches. I believe there's literature out there where Pontiac engineers in 1970 actually put those same Ram Air 4 heads on this 455 block, and the dyno tests were somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 500 horsepower, and I believe it was like 560, 570 foot-pounds of torque. And just imagine if that would have happened. I mean, it would have been, you know, everybody talks about an LS6 Chevelle. I mean, that just would have just been an LS6 killer, but it didn't happen. And, you know, it's still a great motor. It's got great torque. It's just it's not a top-end breather, and it kind of runs out of steam on the top end.
Yeah. So part of the problem, I think, was, you know, when they were coming out with the 70 models, they knew the bloom was off the rose. 71 General Motors, they knew General Motors was going to drop compression ratios off the table, really. I mean, it just killed them. And then they knew the catalytic converters were coming, so they had to up the cubic inches just to preserve the same kind
saw the gas crisis of '73, where they just, hey, you get 7-8 miles to a gallon, that's okay, gas is cheap. Well, suddenly gas wasn't cheap. Frankly, it wasn't even available for a little while, and that really took things to a whole new level.